You cannot simply take the land. It is unjust.
Enough of this insolence. You will report for duty at once or face the consequences.
The most dangerous person in any conversation never asks a single question. They just wait for you to correct them. And you always do. Think about the last time someone had you slightly wrong. A colleague who mischaracterized your position. A partner who assumed something inaccurate about your intentions. Someone in a negotiation who put a number on the table that wasn't quite right. You corrected them. Immediately. Automatically. Without deciding to. Without pausing to ask what you were about to hand over or who was going to receive it. What happened in that moment is not a social habit. It is not a quirk of your personality. It is one of the most precisely exploited vulnerabilities in human psychology. A reflex so fundamental to the ego that even trained intelligence operatives struggle to override it in real time. It has a name. It has a documented history. It has 3 specific techniques. And it is operating in your relationships, your negotiations, and your most important conversations in ways that have never been named for you until now. It is called elicitation, and once you understand how it works, you will never be readable in the same way again. Your brain carries a security alarm. When someone asks you a direct question, especially about something sensitive, something activates before you consciously decide to answer. Why do they want this? Should I say it? How much should I share? That alarm is why interrogations are difficult. It is why direct questions about sensitive information so reliably produce deflection and silence. Elicitation does not disable this alarm. It bypasses it completely, by never triggering it in the first place. When a trained elicitor wants information from you, they do not ask for it. They state something adjacent to the truth, often something slightly incorrect, and then they wait. Your nervous system does the rest without consulting your judgment. Because the correction reflex does not pass through the alarm fires when you sense you are being asked. The correction reflex fires when you sense you are being misrepresented. Those are 2 entirely different psychological events. To understand the full weight of this, you need to meet Michael. His name was Michael, 23 years old, a sonar technician aboard a United States Navy submarine docked in Singapore in the spring of 1955. Michael had been through security training. He understood classified information. He knew not to discuss the technical specifications of American submarines with strangers. He was careful, responsible, and completely unprepared for what happened that evening. The man was already at the bar when Michael arrived. Unremarkable, casual shirt, easy manner. They talked about nothing for a while. And then the man mentioned, almost offhandedly, that German submarines had always been faster than American ones. Better propellers, 22 feet in diameter. The Americans never quite closed the gap. Michael corrected him. He did not decide to. He did not calculate the risk. He did not pause to wonder who this man was or why he cared about propeller specifications. Something in him simply could not allow a false technical claim about his own vessel to stand unchallenged. He knew the real measurement, and it came out. With it came additional details, capabilities, configurations, precision that only someone who actually worked with the equipment would possess. No question was ever asked, no alarm ever fired. Michael finished his drink, thanked the man, and left believing he had simply set the record straight. He had, and the man walked out with exactly what he had come to collect. This was not a failure of Michael's intelligence. It was the exploitation of something far deeper than intelligence. The ego's absolute refusal to be known inaccurately. The ego will sacrifice operational security to correct a false impression of itself, because being misrepresented feels like a more immediate threat than being exposed. Nut weakness. Architecture. Michael's information is long gone. The question now is what you have given away through the same mechanism, in conversations you remember as entirely ordinary. There are 3 specific techniques inside elicitation you need to understand with precision, not intellectually alone, but deeply enough to recognize them the moment they are operating on you. The first is the correction trigger. A statement is made that is slightly wrong about something you know, your situation, your timeline, your value in a negotiation. The human response is immediate correction. The psychology beneath it, the ego cannot tolerate being known inaccurately. It will expose the truth to restore an accurate impression of itself, even when that truth costs far more than the false impression would have. The correction trigger is at work every time someone states something slightly wrong about you and waits. Before you correct anyone in a high-stakes conversation, take one breath. Ask, what does my correction give this person? Is that something I am choosing to give? The second is bracketing. Instead of asking directly, what does it cost? When is it happening? What is your number? The elicitor offers a range. I imagine this falls somewhere between 40 and 60. I heard the timeline was between March and May. You, uncomfortable with the approximation, correct toward the specific truth. A range produces a specific. A vague guess produces the exact fact that direct questioning would have locked away. Bracketing works because it activates 2 needs simultaneously: the need to correct inaccuracy and the need to be understood precisely. Together, they are nearly impossible to resist without knowing the mechanism is in play. The third is disbelief. The calm expression of skepticism toward the smooth, the resolved, the flawless version of events. I can't imagine there were no complications. That sounds almost too clean for something this complex. You, who would have left the polished version intact if asked directly, now feel compelled to prove the reality, which means revealing the difficulty, the detail, the truth you never intended to surface. Disbelief opens rooms that direct questions leave permanently locked. Beneath all 3 techniques is the one principle that changes how you hear every conversation from this moment forward. The more sensitive the information, the fewer questions should ever be asked. Questions trigger the alarm. Statements trigger disclosure. The skilled elicitor never asks. They wait for your identity to do the work for them. Here is exactly what to do with all of this. 5 practices, beginning tonight. The first, tonight, identify one conversation in the last month where you corrected someone's false assumption about you. Map precisely what you revealed in that correction, not whether you were right to correct, but what specifically entered their possession when you did. This is how you begin to see the architecture of your own exposure. The second, in your next important conversation, watch for statements rather than questions. When someone says, I imagine, I bet, I heard, pause before responding. Ask internally, what does my correction give this person? The pause itself is the protection. The third, this week, replace 3 direct questions with statements in any conversation where you need information. State your approximation and let the other person correct you toward the truth. Watch what surfaces that direct questioning would have closed down entirely. The fourth, use bracketing in your next negotiation involving numbers, timelines, or commitments. Offer a range with quiet confidence. The specific truth you need will emerge from the other person's need to be understood precisely rather than approximately. The fifth, and the one requiring the most ongoing discipline. Before you correct anyone in any conversation where something genuinely matters, take one full breath and ask yourself one question. Am I correcting this because the truth is important here, or because my ego cannot tolerate being known inaccurately? Learning to choose between those two answers, consciously, in real time, is what separates someone who can be reliably elicited from someone who cannot. The person who never asks questions but always gets answers is not gifted. They are not magnetic. They have simply understood one thing about human psychology that most people are never shown. The ego will betray you to protect its accuracy. Every time. Without consulting you first. Now you see the mechanism. You are no longer a reliable target. And every conversation where something genuinely matters will be approached with a precision that was not available to you before today. What you cannot see runs your life. Now you see this. Comment below. The conversation where someone extracted something you never consciously chose to give. The one that makes
complete sense now. Like this video and subscribe to this channel for more powerful videos like this. See you in the next one.